Now, yesterday marked the 99th memorial of the Tulsa Race Massacre. As protests erupt across the country in response to George Floyd's death at the hands of Minneapolis police, America should also reflect on one of the worst incidents in racial violence that was covered up and not mentioned much in much of our history books for decades. On May 31st and June 1st in 1921, a white mob descended upon an affluent black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Greenwood district, known as the Black Wall Street. It was decimated in a matter of days after a black teenager named Dick Rowland was arrested for allegedly attacking a white female operator. Roughly 1,200 homes were burned and an estimated 300 people were killed. Here to discuss the Tulsa Race Massacre is Dr. Anthony Samad. Welcome to the Black Report, Dr. Samad.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for being here, brother. Now, the history books have tried to paint it as the Tulsa riots. Meanwhile, others say it was a massacre. Which one was it, a riot or a massacre?
Well, actually, it was both. It started out as a riot and turned into a massacre.
Now, why was Greenwood known as the Black Wall Street?
Well, Greenwood was a community of African Americans that basically had their own businesses and they had their own professionals, largely due to de jure segregation, which was separate but equal. And so instead of trying to patronize white businesses in a subjugated matter, having to come through the back door, having to have their food thrown at them out the door, they decided to build their own businesses, and they built their own banks. They built their own movie theaters, restaurants, hotels, dental offices, doctor offices. And so basically they became self-sufficient from a built-in clientele to the extent of where they actually, by keeping their dollars in their community, they actually prospered more than the white community, which was Tulsa across the tracks.
Do you think that's what's really caused the Tulsa Massacre?
No, that's not what caused the Tulsa Massacre. What caused the Tulsa Massacre was Negrophobia. Negrophobia, which is still quite persistent today. Most of these police officers have Negrophobia, which is an inherent fear of Black people. Okay. And so Dick Rowland, who was a messenger, who delivered mail and carried packages around the city of Tulsa, had basically got on an elevator to take a package to the second floor or third floor. And the operator of the elevator was a white female. And so basically what happened in operating the elevator jerked. And to study himself, he accidentally touched her hand and she screamed.
Wow.
And basically, in that period of time, touching a white woman was considered a sexual assault, an attempt on behalf of Black men to rape the pure white female. And so as a result, the town of Tulsa got incensed as word got around that a Black man had touched a white woman. So initially, when white men from Tulsa came over to Greenwood, you saw Black men protect the town. There were men there to greet them because they protected their own. One of them actually shot a gun in the air, and the white males took offense to that. So what they did was they came back under the cover of darkness and then looted the town. They began to, assault Black people, steal what was in their homes, and then they began to burn them in their homes, and then they began to burn down the whole town. So the massacre portion is the fact that the riot turned so racially vicious that it killed thousands of Black people. They still have not been able to ascertain the number of people that were killed in the Tulsa race riots, largely because a lot of them were not discovered. And so European history has attributed it to folk leaving town, driving them out of town. But those people
Mm-hmm.
were actually killed. And in the 1980s and 1990s, Professor Charles Ogletree led the Tulsa Project that began to uncover many of the mass graves and many of the firsthand accounts of what actually happened.
Whew, that is tough to digest right there. With knowing that history and seeing what we see right now, have we finally reached the tipping point here in America?
Have we finally reached the what?
The tipping point.
Well, let me say this. Racism is economic and has always been economic,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And the real reason that the riot started was the jealousy behind what they called at the time Negroes trying to live white, meaning Negroes trying to be equal.
The audacity.
And so today, when police stop, particularly black males who don't fit the profile of a gangster or drug dealer and that type of thing, and they're intelligent enough to ask them why they were stopped, police get offended and then they want to assault or kill black men. And so, no, we haven't gotten over it. We haven't gotten over the fact that many of these police officers still have Negrophobia. They are afraid of black people. And as a result, they feel like they have to control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way they know to control the situation is to default to deadly force.
And let's hope after all of this, Doc. And let's hope after all of this, because we're seeing a repeat right now, what's going on, and we're trying to get this change. We will have some change. Dr. Anthony Samad, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Black Report.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.